Welcome. My name is Kelly Riordan. I'm a classical musician turned creative entrepreneur, and this is the best platform for musicians that are looking to shape their career by thinking outside the box.
Erin, thank you for being here. I've been so looking forward to this episode. I know I just told you that, but this is going to be a ton of fun. I really enjoyed your presentation at NAMM, so I've been really excited to talk to you today. And I want to start at the very beginning of your career journey with your very first music lesson. When did that happen?
Oh, goodness. Also excited to be here. My first music lesson, I guess technically would be like kindergarten music class.
Okay.
Outside of like your general education, I started piano when I was young. I think once I was learning to read was the expectations my parents put on starting piano was you have to be able to read and then you can play piano. So I started on piano and played that for, gosh, I think I played all the way through middle school with lessons. But in fourth grade is when my wind instrument journey started. So my grandparents owned a general music store called Colonial Music. They had, awesome. I think, 9 stores at one point throughout Columbus, Ohio. And both my grandmother and my brother and my mom all played clarinet. So it was determined I start on clarinet. And in fourth grade, I was really, really small and had these really tiny little fingers. So they were like, you know what? We're going to start her on E flat clarinet. And
the squeakiest of them all.
Right.
Oh, no.
It sounds like a bad idea. Right.
Oh,
but
gosh.
I don't know. It went fine. To this day, my mom always says, you would have been a great clarinet player. You were so good. And yeah, right before the summer before 5th grade, they switched me to B flat clarinet. And I didn't understand anything about the break, that everyone talks about. I could not understand why the notes I knew how to play were no longer working. Like, I'm sure they explained it to me that like my little fingers weren't quite fat enough to press down and cover all the holes. I just knew I was frustrated, and I went to my parents about, I don't know, 2 weeks before school was supposed to start. And I was like, I'm not playing clarinet.
I'm bailing. I'm done.
I hate it. I'm not playing clarinet. They're like, what do you want to play? I'm like, well, I want to play trombone.
Oh my gosh.
Imagine my fingers aren't small or are too small to cover the holes on a clarinet.
But we're going to jump to trombone.
You can imagine I also probably don't have long arms. So they're like, okay. So we go down to the music store and they pull out a trombone and they're like, if you can't reach very far, it's okay. They have little slide extenders, like it'll be fine. So I already know how to buzz. Like I grew up in the music store playing mouthpieces is whatever, whenever. And I don't sound very good. I'm having tons of fun, but I don't sound good. And they're like, you know what? Maybe we start with a baritone. Let's start with like a baby baritone. We have a 3/4 size baritone, knowing full well it's going to sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I do. And it's still terrible. And my grandmother comes out of the back and she's like, what the hell is that noise? And it's little old me sitting there with a 3/4 baby baritone sounding real bad. And she's like, oh, French horn. So I started on a B flat horn because I was little. And you know how like when you play French horn, you can either like hold it up or you can set it on your leg. Mm-hmm. Well, it was too heavy to hold. And my leg made it too high. And like a B flat horn is really small. And I had it between my legs sitting on the seat so that I could reach up to the mouthpiece. And here we are, gosh. I don't know what, like maybe 25 or so years later, I play the regular horn.
Oh my God. As a fellow tiny, like 3rd, 4th grader myself, I actually wanted to start on French horn. I know I told the story, I think, in other episodes, but my Nana played French horn. So I went the opposite way, that I really was obsessed with the sound of the French horn. I thought it was so beautiful. That's what I wanted to do. And I called her and said, I'm going to play French horn just like you. And she goes, you're too small. Try something small. Try clarinet. So I had to go the opposite direction, but that's so cute.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I can just picture you with your whole family around too, which is so much fun. What was it like growing up in the music store and being around that all the time?
Oh gosh, it was endless fun. There was always something to fiddle with. That wasn't meant to be a joke, but it turns out it is.
We love music puns around here. Okay, don't worry about it.
Yeah, so I started working there. Before working there was allowed, like just vacuuming out rental cases and polishing mouthpieces and learning tiny small repairs as I grew up, and doing sales and all that kind of stuff. But I always knew, well, I guess I shouldn't say I always knew. At the time, I really wanted to be a band director. That was my goal. High school band director, like be really good at that. So I wasn't as interested in the business as I think my family was hoping. But I've since learned that there's like this curse on third generation business owners in the music industry. And I'm like, well, I don't have to deal with that. So
Someone else's problem. Right?
that's not my problem. That's someone else. It was great. They sold the business right as I was going to college. So it was, and now being back in the music industry, specifically the products industry, it's really cool to meet people that knew my family, and they were like, oh, you were that annoying little kid that was always at the store when I would visit. And like, yeah, that's me. I'm all grown up. How do you feel? I hope you feel old now, because that wasn't nice to say. But no, that's very rare. So it happened like one time that someone was like, you're the annoying kid.
That's brutal. Oh my gosh.
I know.
Ouch.
It's like, I was 7.
Yeah,
Of course I'm annoying.
I was 7 and I was literally a kid in a candy store. Like every loud thing was at my disposal.
Oh, yeah.
What did you expect?
Right. Man.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. So it sounds like your family, obviously, like you were going to play an instrument from a young age.
Yeah, there was
kind of a shoe-in.
There was no choice. Like I had to. But I wanted, not like, it wasn't a bad thing. I wanted to do it. And I think it's just, the environment you grow up in. If you're a football household, you go and play football. I grew up in a music household, so that's what we did. And it was super fun. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now you get into high school and you're trying to figure out what the heck happens next. And you're still thinking band director at this point, right? Music education, or did that change for you?
I wanted, okay, so outwardly I'm going to be a band director. I'm going to be a band director. But there was like this little like inside part of me that was like, I really like math and science. Like, what if I was a math and science teacher? And I held on to that for a couple years in high school. Then I got to college. I was like, yeah, no, not for me. Music's, yep. I'm not, this whole math and science thing, fun in high school, not fun in college. There's so much I did not know.
Yeah.
So I went to the University of Akron for my undergrad with a major of music education and French horn performance. And I got about a year out from graduating with a music ed degree. And I was like, you know what? Classrooms of children, not for me. Turns out, didn't like it. So I had like student teaching and percussion methods left. And I was like, this is not for me. I was the president of our OCMEA chapter too.
Oh gosh.
I was like,
and I'm leaving.
I'm
sorry.
I'm going to quit this now before it gets too far. So I finished my major in French horn performance.
Nice.
And then my goal at the time was I wanted to be a horn player in one of the bands in Washington, D.C., one of the military bands. Yeah. I was like, that is my bread and butter. I love band. I'm not an orchestra person. Like I'll listen to a symphony. Mm-hmm. I love me some Mahler, Bruckner, such a fan. But horn music in the orchestra is a lot harder than band music. And also I just know band stuff. And at that
makes
point,
sense. You wanted to be a band director. Like obviously you liked that part of the music. You liked that environment. Yeah, why not stay there? That makes total sense.
Yeah, I'm a band kid through and through. And I guess one part that I skipped over that kind of like connects these dots is I joined the Ohio Army National Guard band in 2005. My brother was in that band. My dad was the commander of that band. My mom was in the Ohio Reserve Band, the Army Reserves Band. And my grandfather was even the commander of the band, like way back in the day. So another like bloodline of music. I was like, yeah, I got to do that. So I'd been in the Army for a couple years at that point. And since that was my goal to be like DC bands, at the time, the last 4 horn players that had been hired that won auditions studied with this guy, Seth Orgel, at LSU. And I was like, well, that's obviously who I have to go study from. He knows the secret sauce. So I went and I got my master's at LSU, took a couple auditions and didn't get very far. Obviously didn't win them, but it's okay. I went on and met a boy. We moved to New Orleans and freelanced for a while, played in some orchestras, random brass quintet gigs. And I did full-time military funeral honors. So I played taps multiple times a day. I absolutely loved it. It filled like this little special hole in my heart that I didn't know I had. So that was really cool to provide that for people. And then I was like, I miss Ohio. Louisiana's really hot. It's so hot. So we moved to Cincinnati, which is where my brother lives, and asked my grandma, I was like, I need a job. I'm going to look at music stores. What do you recommend? She said, Buddy Rogers Music. I was like, great, I'm going to go work there. So I started working there, and I think that's where my goals really changed. As far as I'm not going to be a performer. The freelance lifestyle is really hard. So hard. And scary. Yeah. Like they don't talk about how scary it is in college when it's like, in college you're guaranteed to be in ensembles. You're going to have lessons and you're going to have friends because the environment's built for it. The real world.
They shove you out of the nest.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
Yeah. You have to know people. Yeah. You have to be your biggest advocate if you want to get jobs, if you want to get gigs. And I didn't like it. I didn't like to practice that much. So I was like, yeah, this is for me as a steady income that is predictable. So I worked at Buddy Rogers for just about 3 years. Okay. Started as like a part-timer, was really disappointed when I didn't get full-time. But then I eventually got it. I was like a brass specialist, and then I was learning to be their buyer and their ed rep. I don't want to say manager, but coordinator, maybe school services coordinator. That was the title. Okay. And that was fun. And then I met Jason Bartell at a backyard party, and we had a conversation, and I mentioned that I was like, oh, I do graphic design. He goes, oh, I might be looking for a new graphic designer. I'm like, wonderful. And I ended the conversation with I hope I never forget this line. It's so good. And I'm pretty sure this is the first time I ever really like stood up for myself. But I said, if you ever need somebody who has little experience and zero education, then I'm your gal. And
what a selling point.
I know, right?
Oh my gosh.
And I've been there
And it worked.
Yeah, I've been there for 4.5 years. It's so fun.
That's hysterical. Oh
right? Who would have thought that would have worked?
Oh my gosh.
But
okay,
yeah.
To be fair though, from his perspective, like you sit in the interviews and you look at applications all day and everyone's trying to sell you on themselves all the time and they're telling you what they think you want to hear, right? Not the actual truth. And when someone's just brutally honest, like Erin's a straight shooter, she's going to absolutely tell me what she can and cannot do. And I think there's actually something really valuable in that authenticity of, I know my limitations and I'm aware enough of them that I'm going to improve them. I think that's also, a big part of that too. That's hysterical. Oh my goodness.
I did have like a formal interview a couple weeks later. Yeah, and it was still very much, well, do you know how to do this? And I'm like, no, but I'm willing to learn.
I will figure it out.
I teach myself all the time now, so let's dive in. And they took the risk on me, and it's been very rewarding since then.
That's awesome. Well, and you have the experience as a buyer on the other side too for Buddy Rogers, so it's cool to be on both sides of that. So in case anyone is maybe a little bit lost in our timeline right now. So Erin is the marketing director for Maple Leaf Strings.
Yes.
And so when she says she's working in the product industry, that's kind of where we're going with this. So I want to back up for a second. You're at Buddy Rogers and you're learning graphic design on the side because their graphics weren't that great. Fair.
And
born out of need.
Yes. It was, this is going to sound awful. I hate Comic Sans. I hate Papyrus. These are the worst fonts in my world. And right, like I think now someone is saying like Comic Sans is good for dyslexia.
Interesting.
But I still hate the font. I hate it. It shouldn't be used in anything professional. No, like Comic Sans is good for elementary school teachers. Like that is, and then after that, no more. Unless you're a sixth grader writing a poem, I think it'd be good for poems. Yeah. So they had a guy who was creating some flyers, and the logo was blurry and everything was weird and different fonts. And I was like, I'm not a graphic designer, but I think I can do better. Yeah. Can I try? Will you let me try? So I did that for a few years, and then, or a couple years, maybe a year at that point. They hired a girl. Her name is now Haley Voorhees, and she runs Make Music Cincinnati now. But she was in school or graduated from UC DAP, so a really great fine arts school. And she kind of showed me the ropes on what good branding could be, what consistency could look like. My brother had showed me how to use the basics of Illustrator, and I ran with it, signed up for like Skillshare and Pluralsight to learn all these different things, because there was a need and I didn't like what I was seeing. I was like, I think I can do better. Let me do it. So that's where that came from.
That's awesome. And it's something that I think musicians are, I don't want to overgeneralize, but I think in general, we tend to have this ability to see the need and to fill it, because in an ensemble setting, we're constantly communicating about those things. When you're doing chamber music and you're practicing in school, you're learning those skills of how to talk about what's missing or what needs improvement. We tend to be pretty critical of ourselves, of others, which is good and bad and everything in between. But I do think it brings a different skill set. So, okay, you're working in marketing, but you are a musician by background. You didn't go to school for marketing. These are all self-taught skills that I think is awesome. Yeah.
And for a long time, I think until I started working on this, the NAMM session I did on branding consistency, someone when I was going through it, they were like, why should I trust you? I was like, oh shoot, I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. The imposter syndrome is there, but then it was just like a hard kick in the gut of, yeah, I don't know. And they're like, Erin, no, that's for you because you do know you're self-taught. I was like, yeah, how does that help me? They're like, aren't you constantly researching and looking at stuff? I was like, oh yeah, it is. I'm not relying on what I learned in school. I don't have a bias of some teacher or professor from wherever, whenever. I have my own bias, I guess. But yeah, so self-taught. And I think, but back to your point of musicians kind of generally know what's missing. I think part of that is also a lot of musicians have a growth mindset because there's always this thing that you want to be better at and you want other people to be better at. And which is why I think also musicians can be really great teachers because they want everyone else around them to also be better. And you can't learn if you if you can't teach if you don't want to learn. So there's always more on the other side. You're never done.
It's this weird lifelong pursuit that we've all kind of stuck ourselves in, right? It's a very bizarre process, and it's something that outside of the career, of course there are other careers that operate in this way, and professional sports, and I think a lot of medicine, things like that too. The industry progresses really fast, but there's also a lot of careers where it can stay stagnant. And I maybe would argue that marketing, even though marketing needs to be a lot more agile, what people learn in school for marketing changes so fast that sometimes those applications are just kind of thrown out the window. So you have to keep learning. To stay on top of all of it. Yeah.
Which is kind of scary. Sometimes I think about the future of what I'm doing and where I am. And, at some point I'm going to have to break away from, am I going to do graphics or am I going to be a marketer? And there's part of me that's like, well, graphics, I can keep up with that. Maybe I just stick with that. I'm like, but marketing is constantly changing, constantly evolving. You're always learning new things. You're always looking at data and it's just always progressing. Not that graphics aren't. I feel like it's just easier to stay on the cutting edge. I'm like, man, that sounds easy. And marketing sounds really hard. But I don't know. That's just where I am right now. But I have time.
Well, and in your marketing work, what does an average day look like? What is work for you? Are you doing a lot of those graphics right now, or does it kind of change every day?
Every day is different, which is fun. The Army side of me is like, no,
I need routine.
I like routine. But I don't know how long I would last in that. So a typical marketing day for Erin, my work day is 7:30 to 4, which I like. And typically within that day, oh boy, usually starts with going through my inbox, trying to clear it out and just get caught up, look at my Trello, see what's due. And then there's a lot of graphics currently. We have an online training for retailers, music retailers, that we call it a Cellorando. And it's currently like a 4-year process. Our CEO, Jason Bartel, meets with retailers through Zoom, like one retailer at a time. So maybe 5 to 20 people, however many people they have, and goes through things like sales training, product training, but it's really a lot of dispelling myths of orchestral instruments because band people are generally afraid. So I do a lot of graphically taking what is complex and making it digestible and simple. So like explaining how a fine tuner works, or what is a graduation pattern, or what's different between a violin and a guitar besides its strings, you know, things like that. And like just going through all that kind of stuff and simplifying complex concepts is what I do a lot right now. And that's a lot of graphic work. It's really kind of fun though, because it's challenging to figure out what Jason is saying, and he has these terrible drawings. And I've kept track of almost all of them so that I can put them in like
you got leverage in the
yeah, you're like, this is what he gives me. And it's like it looks like a rain cloud. And like, no, that's a violin.
This is your portfolio, right? Your interpretation portfolio.
Yes.
Like, look what I can do.
And you know, it is. I have them saved to be like in my portfolio of like, I took this and I made it into this, and this is what it means. That's awesome. So a lot of graphic stuff. I used to have to do all of the labels that go inside instruments. So we private label, or white label as is commonly known as well. So I manage over 100 brands nationwide, and we customize all these little labels that get glued on the inside of the instruments. So I used to have to do that. Thank God I have an assistant, so she does that, and some other stuff. But yeah, just there's a lot of planning. There's a lot of working with retailers on what they're doing and how can I help them. What tools do we need internally to make the process better for them in the back, so that it's more consistent, all that kind of stuff. But it's mainly, I guess I could say, retailer support. Got it. And how they market and what can I do to help them.
Well, and this is an interesting part of being on the product side of things, where you aren't really selling direct to consumer all that often.
We don't.
Or if you are, it's like those tiny, they're individual small transactions, which it's not the goal. We want to be selling hundreds of instruments at a time to a retailer if possible, like big contracts.
Well, not necessarily. So B2C, so business to consumer, like one. Like we don't. We'll have someone come in to play instruments. They'll travel to us to pick out a specific one, but that transaction goes through a retailer. I don't think I've seen us direct to consumer really. But business to business we do love hundreds of instruments. Love it. That's great business. But we will also sell you one. There's no buy-in. The buy-in is you buy one. And if you buy one, then you get me and everything that I do, which is kind of cool. So I am really, I'm like a little miniature marketing firm for people, which is really cool. But yeah, 1 to hundreds of thousands will be happy. Yeah.
So what's cool about this too is you're not just managing like graphics for social media and graphics for the actual promotion of Maple Leaf itself, again, to consumers. It's the graphics and the support and the marketing and what the actual retailer needs to then move that product to the end consumer, or to a school, or to the rental programs, whatever it's going to look like.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
So if you were to look at our website, it's beautiful. If you were to look at our Facebook, you'd be like, are they hiring? Because that's all that's on there is like our job postings. There's
hysterical.
Some people will tag us and stuff, but we are not focused on our end user. We're focused on how can we help the retailer sell our stuff, because
that makes sense.
Their name is on it the majority of the time.
That's awesome. And for those that don't understand the white labeling and kind of what you were alluding to there, can you describe that process, or why that would be beneficial to a retailer?
Yeah. This is super fun. This is my entire job, is private labeling. So we will put your name on anything and take ours off completely. So the process of that is you come to me and you're like, hey, I would like to do this. great. Here's what we offer. We go through how to create a name brand. And then once we do that, let's pick what that looks like. So we're going to create a logo, which I love doing. We're going to pick out fonts and colors, and we're going to design a label. And, there's options for that if it's like overwhelming. We're going to name all the instruments and give them special model numbers, all of that. And from there, we'll embroider your cases. We'll stick your label in it. We'll give you special catalogs, sell sheets, fab cards, hang tags, anything and everything you can imagine. We're going to try our best to do that. We do email marketing campaigns for people based on the life cycle of a rental customer. We'll help you with graphics for your social media. We'll give you anything that you can think of. You're like, I want some posters. I got you. I want a special catalog that has select instruments. We can do that. I want special stuff for this, and I want that. And have you seen this? Can you make this for me? I want this in a special size. Like all of that we do. We do all of the printing in-house. So catalogs, we have a 80-page catalog that we do. We print and bind that in-house, which is kind of a pain at times because the bigger the printer,
a lot of
the
customization in there.
Yeah, the more problems. Yeah, but it's super great. And you asked why would it be good? So if you private label, you have no competition online. And private labeling has been around in the orchestral string world since it began. So people have been putting other people's names on their stuff forever. So we're just continuing that. And if there's no competition online, you don't have to worry about someone going on and trying to find it somewhere else for cheaper. You can set your own margins. You don't have to adhere to our map or our MSRP, none of that. If you want to charge more, you can. If you want to charge less, you can, based on,
again, people can't search it and see the competition.
Right. Yeah. Like I'm not going to go around looking for it. Someone might take our cheapest violin that maps for X amount and they could double it if they want. Will I laugh at that? Yes. Cause I think that's funny, but people will buy it. So yeah, I think for a lot of retailers, that's the biggest selling point. Is that they can decide their margins on it based on
when we're looking at different areas and cost of living in different areas.
Yeah.
Selling that same violin in Los Angeles versus in a tiny town in Wisconsin, that looks different. It just looks different because the cost of living is different. The expectations of costs are different.
Yeah.
The cost to do business is different. So that flexibility is really helpful, and it provides a lot more flexibility for the retailer to meet the needs of their market and to meet market expectations too.
Yeah. And, a side benefit is, you go through this whole process, you as the company and the retailer, salespeople, there's more buy-in emotionally if they get involved. If there's an instrument like that, they got to pick the name of it. Ooh, you better believe they're going to want to sell it. Yeah, I named that one. True. So there's this emotional buy-in that is really kind of cool. Like, I worked on this. This is so fun. Yeah, it can seem daunting. And that's one of the things that I'm constantly trying to figure out is like, how do I make this easy? How do I make this seem approachable? But when I come at you with a list and it's got 20 instruments on it, I'm like, I need you to name all of these. Where do I get 20 names?
Yeah.
What do I do? How do I do it? It's like, well, I have a back pocket list of ideas of, nice. You could name them all of the wildflowers or all of the trees of your state, or do you have really cool street names? Maybe that, or, different things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What about landmarks? There's all these cool kinds of things that are really fun. Yeah.
That's so cool.
So that's
so
private
interesting
label.
about this too, Erin, is when we think about, going back to your origin story and your family's music store, when it's a mom and pop music shop, they don't have all of these resources. They don't have a marketing team. They don't have a graphic designer. They can't print catalogs. They
Yeah.
are so limited by
Mm-hmm.
their budget, what their revenue is and what they can afford, and then also who's in their area
Yeah.
and what they do have at their disposal as far as talent. And now things are more online and global, and that's great, but it wasn't that way a few years ago. It certainly wasn't when we were growing up. So
Yeah.
to not only give them the instruments, but then to give them that support, I think that's something that most of these retailers are looking for from a products team and from a manufacturer. They don't just want the instruments anymore.
Right. And I think that's what really sets Maple Leaf Strings apart is, yeah, we'll put your name on it, but we'll also help you sell it. And it's not just down to like, oh, well, we'll give you product training or, oh, we'll give you catalogs. It's no, like we're here to give you anything and everything you need. Like I am at every retailer's disposal as far as graphics or marketing ideas or sales event structures and stuff like that. And, I think growing up in the industry is super helpful for me because I'm a band kid. And a lot of these mom and pop shops are band shops. Yeah, they'll do rentals of orchestral instruments and they'll have, guitars and some drum sets. But, that's where I started. I know that market really well. And I know the struggles that they're going through. I may not explicitly know like the numbers, but I know how to do that. I've been there. And the target demographics change, but not that drastically.
Right.
So the things that worked 50 years ago, in theory, what's behind them will still work today. A newspaper ad is now on social media. And if you think about it that way, it makes it a lot more approachable. Yeah. And we're there for them, whatever they need. Cause graphic designers and marketers are expensive and I'm free for them. So might as well take advantage.
That's awesome. What's so cool about this, I'm like hearing the passion in which you talk about the work that you're doing. And obviously like you love the design that you're doing and you love the marketing work that you're doing, but I keep hearing the passion is in this level of service. And it's probably because you grew up in this and you saw what your grandparents, your parents were doing and working with, and probably saw, obviously the highs and the lows, and the things that they felt that they were stuck in or needed more support. It's really cool to be able to give back in that way and to be able to support those other mom and pop shops and those smaller retailers or retailers of any size and give them the things that, if you had these skills when you were growing up, it would have been so helpful for your family's business too, I'm sure. It's really cool to see that come full circle.
Yeah. And a few years ago, I called my grandma and asked her, I was like, what did you do for marketing? Like, did you have somebody? What did you do? Like, what was the thing? If someone came to you with an idea, like, what did you do with it? And she was very frank about like, we did what everybody else did. We followed the tide. If we had something new, we tried to get it out there. And, were we disappointed if it didn't work? Sure. Were we disappointed if someone copied us and did it better? Yeah. But one of the phrases that Jason Bartell uses a lot is all ships rise if the tide rises. So if you can bring in the tide, you're going to rise and you're going to bring everybody else up around you. And and I think having a passion for the retailers and supporting them is also having a passion for kids playing music. It's having passion for support of teachers because those are the people that really need it. And if I can help retailers, help teachers, then I feel really good about what I'm doing.
That's awesome. That is so cool. It's something that I know it's different. Okay, you go to school for performance, and if you had not had that background, we're just not thinking in these ways. And I grew up working in high school at a music store also.
Nice.
I worked at the front desk and got to see all that stuff. And it's complicated. This is not an easy business. And I'm sure you saw this on the buyer side too. it is not as linear as you would think. You don't just get
Right.
products into the store and sell them. Like, you have to be tracking trends and what are people buying, what are they not buying, and do they want it bundled or do they want to buy it all separate? And you're tracking thousands of SKUs in a store, everything from the instrument purchases down to little mouthpiece patches and all the tiny little details, everything in between. You have to have, I mean, a lot of business acumen to be able to run a business of that size.
Yeah. It's not like, well, it's probably like a motorcycle shop, right? A person who owns a motorcycle shop is super passionate about motorcycles. They know all of the things inside and out. And at some point, they have to hire other people that also know all that. And I think the same is for music shops, because no matter how much you know about music and products, there's a segment that is just
Absolutely.
not like, I can't comprehend sometimes.
Yeah.
And for me at Buddy Rogers Music,
Too
it would have
much.
been strings. I've been like, I don't know anything about fiddles. That's not my jam, because we didn't sell them, so I didn't have to learn it. But I think once you bring people in that know those things, your business excels. Because you can't do everything and you're not going to know everything. And having the support there is always helpful. And I think that's for anything in life, not just music business. But yeah, it's massive.
Well, it's interesting. Like, individual little retailers, they tend to specify, right? Like,
Yeah.
you walk into a place and you can figure out pretty quickly what the owner themselves probably plays, because there's either a ridiculous amount of guitars on the wall or they just don't exist, period.
Right.
Or there's a ton of band instruments or orchestra instruments, or they do no rentals and it's just a guitar shop. Or you walk in, it's all pianos. Like, it is obvious because that's their wheelhouse. And it is uncomfortable. Like you're saying, if they're a band shop, to bring in strings and feel confident in that, they're going to need, you're talking about like the explanations and all these little graphics and everything. And sure, the surface, it seems kind of funny, but at the same time, if they've only ever been in guitar shop and now they want to start renting violins because there's a need in the market, what are they going to do? I mean, how do you learn that? Like, you're going to go back to school and learn a whole other instrument, like start taking lessons? No, come on.
No.
So yeah, it's important to have that support. That's wild.
Yeah. And like, even large businesses that might have a marketing person and a graphic person, and those are separate jobs, or they have a whole team, chances are their ed reps are probably all retired band directors.
Yeah.
Well, band directors and orchestra directors are different people. They speak differently, but they're still humans. But you just have to talk to them a little bit differently, and you need to let them know that you know that kind of thing. So even if you are like a really small mom and pop shop that focuses on the wizardry of violins versus a full line store that has 17 locations across the nation, there's something that everyone is missing.
Right.
And it's different for everybody.
That's awesome. Okay, so circling back, I know we've talked a lot about the physical work that you're doing right now and how you're supporting all these stores, but backing way up, you are managing not only your full-time job at Maple Leaf Strings, but then you also are still in the Ohio Army National Guard.
Yep.
How do you balance all of that? I know, obviously, you have a pretty set schedule. I know these things are pretty regimented, which is great, but it's still a lot. You still have to practice and keep up with everything. And
yeah, it is a lot. And I'm coming up on 18 years of it. And it's great. I joined because I wanted to, because my whole family did it. And the bonus was that I got my education paid for. So I got my entire undergrad paid for. And since I had scholarships, they then wrote me a check. So that was great. And then when I went to Louisiana, I transferred to the Louisiana band, and they paid for my master's. So I am very fortunate to not have ever had any student loan debt. But the commercials were always, it's 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks in the summer. And it's like camping. That's a bold-faced lie. It is absolute garbage, as trash. It's not real.
Sorry, U.S. government. I'm just going to call you out straight away. This is just not.
I do need to say my opinions do not reflect the DoD or the Army itself. These are my own opinions and my
Important
own
disclaimer.
stories. Yes, disclaimer. My opinions do not reflect the DoD. But no, it's been like, when I think about, am I going to get out after I have 20 years, because that's when I can retire, I cry. I cry every time. Some of my best friends and my longest friends I met in the Army, and man, whew, not gonna cry.
It's all good.
But balancing it, yeah. I do have my drills once a month. They're typically 2 or 3 days. The weekends shift depending on what's going on. We are special in that we are a band and we are public facing. There's not a lot of people in the military that are public facing, and there's not a lot of units that are. So you see us. Most of the people that you see in the Army are at funerals and a band in the summer. That's when the most population sees us doing our jobs. But outside of that, yeah, it's basically a part-time job that I do. I'm currently a staff sergeant, so I manage a team of 4 other people, and then I report on up. But so I have to take care of them. I'm a musician, so I have to keep up my skills. And I do a lot of arranging of music. So a lot of my time is spent creating music, because we have weird little ensembles that we break off into that we call music performance teams. And they're weird instrumentation. And you can't find Broadway hits for clarinet, flute, 2 trumpets, a bari sax, and a ukulele. So, we choose what we're playing, and then I write it.
Nice.
And that takes a lot of time. And sometimes it makes me kind of kooky and a little bit mad. But in the end, like, I have to wait like a full year to see the product and be in the product. Oh, it's great, because it's like, I did that. So yeah, it's a lot. And I've had a lot of success in that. We've won a few nationwide awards for video production, which is really exciting. I didn't edit the video, I'll say. I just made the music and played in it and was my typical funny self. But yeah, they're on YouTube if you want to find us.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
I know this is something, obviously, you've been doing for a very long time. You feel attached to it, and you grew up seeing it, and so it was really familiar. Probably for a lot of musicians, and for my own self, when I was looking at career paths, this was kind of maybe elusive is the right word. Like, you sort of know maybe what you think you might be getting yourself into, but also it's the military, and that might be a little uncomfortable or a little unknown for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that maybe you had to adjust to that you weren't expecting when you first joined, even after seeing family be members? And what were some of the things that, aside from meeting friends and being able to play on a regular basis, what are some of the other maybe personal development things that you've been able to get out of this process? That was a very loaded question. I apologize. That was gigantic.
Yeah. I'm taking it in. What have I learned? I would say, okay, let's back up. Things that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
I went into basic training knowing I was going to love it. Basic training is 10 weeks, maybe 11, depending on when you get there. And it's where you learn how to do all the things. It's where you get yelled at, honestly. But it's not that bad. My dad gave me the best piece of advice, which was, forget everything you know and let them teach you to wipe your own butt. And when you go in with that mindset of, I know nothing, blank slate, you tell me what to do, that truly helped me succeed. and be the best that I could be. Oh my gosh, be all you can be. They went back to a new slogan, and that's the new one again. But yeah, and let's see. Then I went to, so you do your basic training, 10, 11 weeks, and then you go to your individual training. And when I went, it was 4 weeks long. And that is not long, because now it's 10 weeks to teach, like to learn how to be in the band, because they have to teach you how to do that. But when I went, so our school is in Norfolk, Virginia. So Virginia Beach. There was a hurricane. So everything was shut down for 2 weeks. So and they counted it. So we did nothing for 2 weeks. We went to the beach every day. And I was fit.
In the hurricane?
Well, the hurricane hit, and then there's like the aftermath of like, how do we fix everything? Okay. Everything's broken. There's no electricity. Well, what am I going to do? Gonna go to the beach.
You're not having
because it's beautiful out.
Fix that.
Right. I'm not even a real soldier yet, kind of thing. But yes, that was great. I spent my 4 weeks in Virginia Beach. And then after that, I would say after that it was pretty easy. Like I just had to show up and play. One of the things that was great, or that is great about being a musician in the Army, is you already know how to do it. You know how to play. You have to audition. You can't just show up and learn how to play. So from there, it was pretty easy. Transferring to Louisiana was a little bit harder. They have a different style of leadership and expectations. And so I really missed, that was one of the big reasons I came back to Ohio, is I really missed my unit. And I came back and it was completely different. They adopted this team aspect of smaller ensembles instead of just one big concert band, playing Sousa-Palooza, which has a time and place. I'm a horn player. I don't really like marches, but they're easy. I don't have to practice a march any day. But this new style really challenged me as far as a musician. I wasn't able to just kind of play my horn. Like now I play guitar and ukulele and piano, and I sing and I do accordion, and it's super fun. But like I learned all these things because I wanted to provide more. Like
that's awesome.
A horn player playing rock music, it could work, but I would rather sing. I would rather play guitar, and those are super fun and a lot easier to practice. I don't get mad as much when I practice those. But biggest life lessons I think I've learned through the military, just as far as like really personal stuff, like dealing with my own stuff. I learned a lot about mental health through the military, suicide awareness and prevention, sexual assault and harassment. And I'm now equipped to help other people through those things. Have I had my own share of them? Yes. But, a lot of people balk at like, oh, we do suicide training every other month. Well, yeah, because there's a staggering amount of it. And especially in the veteran community. And if I can be that person for someone that I know or someone that I don't know, I'm equipped to do that. I had, my tool belt was a certain size out of high school, and it's just the Army grows it more and more every year and gives me more and more opportunities to grow it. I would say that's something I didn't expect, was the mental health aspect of learning about it and going through it myself. And the Army wants to send you to schools. They want people to grow. They are the greatest teachers of how to be a leader. Like if you want to learn how to be a leader, do something military style, and you're going to learn so much. The best leaders are from the military. And I once told that to when I was at Buddy Rogers, Brandon Voorhees was my manager, and he was a great leader. I was not prepared to follow him though. And I told him, I was like, you're not the best leader I've ever had. And you never will be, because I'm in the Army. Like, you have some really big shoes that you would want to fill. And that was hard for both of us. But there's, it doesn't always translate though, like leadership styles. Like, I can't tell someone at work in the civilian world, hey, can you mop this floor? Like, that's how I would ask in the Army. And that's like the nicest thing possible. Like, I could easily just tell you, because I'm of the rank now, I could just go mop the floor. No, I'm like, hey, can you mop the floor? Whereas like here, if the floor needs mopped and I can't do it and I want someone else to do it, I have to be so nice.
Yeah.
And ask like my life depends on it. And it's like, can you just mop the floor? Yeah. I don't know. That might have been a tangent. I don't know.
No, you're fine.
I don't remember what we were
styles are very different, but I think it's also something, when we talk about growing in our careers too, not only is it informing your leadership style, but also who you choose to align yourself with. I mean, obviously you're also picking your bosses and the companies that you want to work for based on leadership skills too, because you want to work for someone that you want to follow.
Yeah.
And this is hard in musician life too, if you kind of just compare it straight into performance. If you don't like the conductor on the podium, if you didn't agree with their musical decisions, and if they don't want to hear your voice and they don't have strong leadership skills, it's not collaborative, it is painful. We have all been there in some way, shape, and form. It's not nearly as enjoyable as when it is a team, or when you are, able to, like even in your arranging work right now, you have a voice in the ensemble. You are contributing something. You don't just show up and play your instrument.
Right.
And for someone that's looking for the leadership and wants to be involved, obviously, like you are, it's nice to have that ability to exercise those desires and those skills in other ways too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, military band, kind of a final thought here. For everyone, if not for who's a good fit?
I would say it's not for everyone. There are some people that come and they're like, oof, you're not gonna make it. I would say it is a special breed. But if it even interests you slightly, to research it, check it out. I can honestly say 100%, if you were to contact a local Army, Marine, any sort of band, skip the recruiter, go straight to the band and say, I'm interested, but I don't know what you guys do. And 99% of the time, they're gonna be like, come check it out. Come hang out with us for an entire day, maybe for an entire weekend, and see if you like it. Basic training is going to be way different. The school you're going to go to is going to be way different than this, but this is what you would do day in and day out, and see if you like it. And if you do, then it's probably for you. And if you're like, yeah, absolutely not, then don't do it. Yeah, you have to like what you do for that. It's a 6-year commitment. Or if you're just that desperate to pay for school, it can work.
Yeah.
You just have to be willing to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So you have been telling the story of your career. And one thing that's been a huge theme that I'm hearing in all of this is that a lot of your career has been built through your network. That you've gone and met people, that you've put yourself in front of people, you've met the right individuals, introduced yourself. So, okay, networking, I guess, is kind of a whole thing here.
Yeah.
Where does that confidence come from to walk up to someone and to make the joke, like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I will absolutely learn it? How do you get to that point, or how do you hone these skills to end up landing, big jobs like marketing director at a massive products company?
Yeah. So landing that was, I will be honest, I might have had a beer or more. Just to,
liquid courage is how to get it done.
Yeah, liquid courage. My best friend was also there, and she really encouraged me. Yeah. I knew 2 people at this party in the backyard, and yeah, it was weird. It was super fun. And she was like, go do it. Go do it. You just trust yourself. Just be yourself. That's all anyone ever tells me. Just be yourself. You can't ask for anything more. Try your best, because there's nothing better than your best. If your best that day isn't the best that it was yesterday or 3 weeks from now, that's fine. It was still your best for that day. So always give your best. And then outside of that, I don't know. I'm a people pleaser. So I will do anything I can to make someone laugh. I will do anything I can to make someone else feel better. And I think in the past couple of years, I started doing comedic improv, and that truly started to propel me. I've had, so our CFO, Brad Patterson, was my first mentor. And I think the key to networking is also in mentorship, because he still will tell me this to the day, where it's like, I want you to see yourself as others see you. And I don't always see it. Like it's hard for me at times, because like I have imposter syndrome. I don't know what I'm doing. But other people think I do. So why do they think that? And, just kind of investigating that. But, he pushed me into improv, literally forced me. I didn't want to do it. But after the first class, man, you know how like there's some Kool-Aid where you're like, ooh, yeah. So I drank the Kool-Aid real hard. I went all in. It's still all in. It's a little insane how much I'm in, but I'm in it and I love it. But through that, I met a man named Tone Branson, and he is my improv mentor, and he has continuously poured himself into me with wisdom, with encouragement, with just questions. And that has truly changed how I talk to people and how I accept compliments. Because for the longest time, I was just talking to Natalie Morrison about this. It's really hard to take a compliment.
Yeah.
Because you don't believe it. And you want to seem humble, even if you do believe it. It's like, oh, no, thank you. No, what you say is, oh, thank you. That's so nice. And you can leave it at that. Like, that's the simplest thing to do. And Tone taught me that, because I would constantly degrade myself and talk shit about myself. Ooh, can I say shit? I've talked crap about myself. And just be very self-deprecating. And when you don't accept a compliment, you are essentially telling that other person that they're a liar.
Yeah.
That you don't believe them. They don't know. And that's kind of mean. And you're just calling them stupid, and that's not nice. So you just take the compliment. And through that, I learned how to just be myself. I don't have to try to be anybody else. I don't have to try to be funny. The funny's just going to happen. And yeah, so that gave me courage to talk to people that I don't know, to ask for the things that I want. And then as far as networking, meet all the people within our specific network of, music products. I'm in NAMM Young Professionals. And before I got really involved, I signed up for the mentorship program. It's a year long. They pair you with an industry mentor. And I got paired with Gary Winder. And Gary Winder's from England, Britain, somewhere over there. Gary Winder. I always make fun of him. It's fun. But he introduced me to so many people. Any chance he got. Oh, do you know Erin? This is my NAMYP mentor. This is Erin. This is Erin. This is so-and-so. This is Erin. Erin, you have to meet this. You have to go to this. All this stuff. And and I think, I want to say that's the best pairing that YP has ever made, is me and Gary. Because
the dream team.
Dream team.
That's awesome.
Me and Gary Winder. But he was also a military musician. And like,
I didn't know that.
there are, in this products industry, I know of 4 people that were military musicians. It might be 3. It's like 3 or 4. There's not many of us. It's like a secret little club. I need to make t-shirts. But yeah, best pairing ever. We're friends. I still meet with him monthly because I'm like, I need this in my life. You have wisdom. Give it to me, please. But he gave me the courage again to just talk to people. I know what I'm doing. I'm Erin. I'm solid in who I am, and that's important. And people like that. And gosh darn it, people like me. So, yeah, courage to just talk to people. Sometimes it is liquid, and sometimes you just have to trust yourself.
Yeah, and it takes practice. I mean, it's not easy to go up and shake their hand and introduce yourself and make the ask, whatever the ask is, or even if there isn't an ask, just like, I wanted to meet you and say hi. And maintaining those relationships is helpful too. I mean, it's not just the one-time meeting, but what would you say with you and Gary, what makes that relationship work so well? I mean, obviously you're talking about all the things that he's pouring into you, but to be a good mentee, obviously you're doing the work too. So what does it look like for you to bring value back to that relationship so he feels like it's fulfilling for him and that it's a worthwhile endeavor to keep mentoring you?
Yeah. So this is what I drive into people all the time. Mentorship is 100% on the mentee. I drive that relationship. I have to know what I want. Maybe I don't know more than I just want to have this relationship. But that's enough. I want someone to help me with this. I'm facing this. What can I do? I'm going through this. What do you suggest? And it's not on the mentor to answer the problem or just answer the question or solve the problem. They just have to be able to guide.
Yeah.
That's it. They're the mom driving you to soccer practice. That's it. They're introducing you to someone, but once you're introduced, it's on you to continue that conversation. So I think that's what is successful with any of the mentorships that I've had and still have. I drive it, and that's what it should always be. I just started being a Women of NAM mentor, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So then I go to Gary. I'm like, what am I doing? He goes, what do you think you should be doing? Like, probably the same stuff you did to me. He goes, yes. So here's what we did. Awesome, and I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. We need to set goals. We need to talk about what the future is. So yeah, it's on me as a mentor for the first meeting to kind of have the conversation and set that first thing. But then it's on the mentee. Like, it's on that person to drive it, to ask questions, to want to know what they want. So yeah, I'm currently working on developing a mentorship program through the theater that I'm in, because
cool.
They kind of have one. It's on like their Facebook, like you can sign up for a mentor, but it's not designed for in person. And I think it's not necessary, but when you are in person, it's weird to have this like virtual thing happening. So kind of revamping that, and I'm modeling it after YP because it's so successful. So successful. Young professionals, that's what YP is, in case anyone's not listening. So yeah, I think, and
obviously you're getting even more and more involved with NAM young professionals, which we can talk about in a second too. But these professional organizations, I mean, I think again, like another theme here is you are seeking involvement. Like, you are not letting life happen to you. You're not just allowing your career to unfold in front of you without any direct influence or involvement. You are making those things happen. You are going to go and introduce yourself and talk to people that you want to talk to. Whether in that moment you feel confident about it or not, we're going to put ourselves out there and see what happens.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I really hope anyone that's listening to this is taking that away today. Like, it's okay to put yourself out there. And even if it's an awkward interaction because it's new, you haven't done it a lot before, it will continue to improve. And maybe you see that person again in the future. And because you've already talked to them once, now it's easier.
Yeah.
Right? It keeps improving. So it takes practice and involvement, but you also have to be in the room where those things happen. You have to go to conferences, you have to go to events, you have to be in organizations and be trying to meet people.
Yeah.
So why, NAM Young Professionals obviously is one. I almost said YAM. Oh my goodness.
NAM
Young Professionals. Obviously this is a great part of the industry, and especially if you have a lot of like performers or educators on right now that aren't as familiar with NAM represents every area of the music industry. It's not just products and sales and retail. It's an event that we go to every year because it also has a ton of education and information for performers, and there's a ton of instruments. It's really it's amazing. Can't say enough about it. But when you get involved in these organizations, they have programs like this mentorship program, or they have resources for you. Would you say that NAM YP is that like the biggest organization that you're a part of, or is that where you put the most energy in your professional networking and career development? Or are there other professional organizations that have also really helped to create that momentum for you and build that independence in your career building?
I think as far as career specific, NAM YP, yes, for sure. Has improv helped me? For sure. But that's not, an industry standard. But yeah, NAM Young Professionals has, oh my goodness, just limitless networking. It is where I can find people that know what I'm going through, people my own age. When you look at a lot of, like, I get demographic readouts from our email campaigns. I'm pretty sure it'll tell me it's a white male over the age of 55. And that's true of a lot of businesses you look at. Doesn't matter what industry, most of them are owned by older white males. So having young people as a segment and a chartered organization is, I believe, 100% necessary. They have NAMYP. They have just propelled me further than I ever could have thought within the industry. I didn't know about them. My first NAM show, I had no idea. And at the time, Laura Penrose, she now owns Nick Rail Music. She was working with us, and she's like, "You have to come to this thing." And I did. And I was like, "I don't know who you guys are. Obviously, your social media is terrible. Could do something about that." And now here I am 3 years later. I've been through the mentorship program. I'm on the NAMYP board in the marketing committee, and now I'm the vice president of NAMYP, which is super exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So cool.
Yeah.
And well-deserved. I mean, you're putting yourself out there constantly. This is
Thank you.
Absolutely well-deserved. You're doing the work, supporting it. And I mean, here we are in this podcast, like talking about your career journey, and like we're pitching NAMYP for everyone in the industry.
Well, this is so great.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. That is so cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
So as you're looking in the next couple of years, I mean, are there things that you want to do in this position? Are there other career goals that you have? Like, what is next for you? Where are we looking?
That's a big question. So as far as NAMYP, I have 2 years as vice president and 2 years as president. So I'm on that for at least another 4 years. And through that, as being president, I get to be involved with like the NAM board. So I'm really excited for that. It's a couple years away, but I'm excited to be in the room. That room is a really big room full of really big people in the industry. And I kind of feel like I belong there. So I'm really excited for that. And as far as, that also gives me the opportunity several years later to get on the board on my own as well. So I'm going to be on the board twice, which will be really cool. Mark it down. Erin's ambitious.
Absolutely.
Ambitious.
Speak it into existence. We
Yeah.
recorded it here first. Yeah.
I'm manifesting.
That's awesome.
But as far as like regular goals, so I did Women of NAM Summit in October, and we set some goals for ourselves, and they're kind of lofty. And one of my goals was to be happier at my current work. And you might be like, Erin, you can't measure happiness. And that's really hard to do. But luckily I have a therapist, and I was like, how do I do this? Like, this is what I want. Because like at the time I was struggling. I had a really hard summer. I had a really hard year. And I wanted to be happier where I was instead of just finding something else to do. And I've had success with that. I am happier. And it's been 6 months, and that was the goal. And I had like a backup plan in case it didn't work, but I didn't plan for if it worked. So yesterday we had our final wrap up. And I was like, what do I do? What do I do now? It's like, well, I have to go through the whole process again and make my goals. I have to set my SMART goals. I have to think about that, because right now I don't know. What do I want? Like, I obviously want to maintain my happiness. I want to be happier, but what is that? How do I get it? When do I want it? And that's something I have to figure out, and then I have to talk to my boss about.
Yeah. Well, and when we talk about SMART goals, in case we've got anyone that's listening that's maybe not in the corporate lingo quite yet, can you define SMART goals? Because I know that's a pretty corporate type description of your goals too.
It is pretty corporate, but it's really great. Even if you're not corporate, and if you don't have a job, whatever, or you're freelancing, these are good to use for anything. It could be for weight loss. It could be for eating better. It could be for learning a new instrument. But SMART goals, they are specific. So it's an acronym. I'll just go through. So specific, they are measurable, they are achievable, they are, is it realistic? And they're time bound. Or relevant. They're relevant and they're time bound. Yep. Yes. The R always throws me for a loop. So specific meaning, like, let's say, because this is the one everyone uses, I want to lose weight. Okay. Specific. How much? Is it, I want to fit into these pants? I want to work out this much? I want to be healthier? What is that? Define what it is. The definition, the actual goal. Personally, I wouldn't put a number down because I think that's bad. Yeah. Like the Army has a specific number for me. I know what that is. Am I there? No. It's fine. It's fine. I'm working on it. I've had surgeries. I'm tired. I'm old. But yeah, so specific. You have to define what that is. Measurable. How are you going to measure that? So in the case of weight loss, it's easy. I hit this number, or I'm in this size pants, or I'm hitting the gym this many times a week. I'm my diet, caloric intake, whatever. I've talked to my dietitian. It's this. Am I happier? Do I feel good? And that's not necessarily measurable, but you can look at it day after day, be like, oh yeah, no, yesterday was a total crapshoot, but today I feel better. Okay, take note of that. Achievable. Can you actually do it? Like, I want to go to space.
I mean, maybe someday with oodles and noodles of money, we're consumer space travel, right?
Yeah,
it's coming.
that's like a 30-year SMART goal. Good luck on it. I want to be a dinosaur. No, not going to work. Yeah. So is this something you can actually do?
Yeah.
Especially in whatever time you set for it. Like, I can't lose 50 pounds in 30 days. Like, it has to be reasonable, achievable,
okay.
Something that's realistic. Relevant. Is this goal good for you right now? Is this something that you can fit into your life and your schedule right now? Is it something that you should be doing? Like, if my goal is space travel, well, what if I need to get a new car first? space travel is not relevant if you can't afford a car when you need it. So that's the relevant. Is this goal relevant to your life where you are right now? And Tiebound put a time frame. Is it a month? Is it 6 months? Is it 3 years? And put that in, and that will help you really achieve goals. Because when you think about all those things all at once, you kind of have to plan it out. Well, okay, if it's time bound and I have 6 months to do this, what do I need to have done by month 5? What do I have to do by month 4? What's my first step? Yeah. And the great thing about it, if you fail, that's okay. It was just a goal. So goals change. Timelines are flexible. This is just the starting point.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's something that, when we talk about the goal setting and where we want to be in our careers, it can be really ambiguous. Sometimes just getting really specific with all that is helpful. And I hope this is a framework that helps people too.
Yeah. I mean, it helps me.
And as you're looking at your future goals, and it sounds like a lot of them are on track. We're doing a lot of really good things, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Flying through them.
Check.
Is there anything, and I think we'll kind of wrap up here for the day. Is there anything in your personal life, as you're, again, balancing everything, managing a lot on your plate, working a lot in your career, is there anything in your personal life that you're working towards right now that you're excited about, or outside of your improv, because I know we've talked about that a lot too.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you're exploring right now? Are there hobbies, new things, COVID projects that have turned into life projects?
I mean, let's see. Besides improv, that's hard because that is my thing outside of work.
That's awesome.
I do CrossFit. So I've got that. I have ADHD, so there are several unfinished projects just around my house that I'm looking at, in
the background of the video right now, you're like, do I say these?
I gotta water this plant. There's some there's so many unfinished things. What am I into right now besides tacos? I don't know. I think just I pour myself hard into stuff, and for the past 2.5 years, it's been improv, and that is truly what gives me life right now. Yes, there's drama in it, besides on-stage drama, but we just hit our 1-year anniversary for this group that I'm in called Alphas, which is an all-female identifying group. We do improv, we do stand-up, sketches, music. I'm the music director for it. And we got accepted into this festival that we're really excited about. So I just wrote a song about a corn dog shortage during an apocalypse. So that's what I'm passionate about right now. I love corn dogs, and I like improv. There's my headstone. Corn dogs and improv. Awesome. No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I think, I'm still coming off the NAMM high. Yeah. There's something about going somewhere and people filling your cup, because, industry events, conferences, that's where you see your friends. That's where, at least for me, that's where people tell me I'm amazing and that they love me. And not that people tell me that they love me when I'm at home, but it's something, it's different. When people are telling you you're good at your job several days in a row, multiple times a day, you're so great. You're so great. That worth cup, that value cup fills up. And I need to figure out how to do that on my own too, to realize that I matter, that I'm valuable, that I have worth. Intrinsically, I should know that. I should believe it. But yeah. So I think, I don't know. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Absolutely.
What am I doing?
Yeah. And then some. Oh my gosh, of course. Well, and it's nice to have these events too, because and it's why we do this podcast. It's why we encourage people to go to events and be networking and meeting other people in the industry, because now not only can you learn so much from what other people are doing, but then it inspires you in your own work to then take those new skills, that new knowledge, and apply it to what you're doing, or apply it elsewhere. And it opens the doors to figure out what the next goal is and where you're going. If you don't see all the possibilities, it's near impossible to figure out what comes next. So it's great to have all of those sources to fill your cup and to keep you going so you can set the next goal. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Erin, this was a ton of fun. Thank you so much. This is going to be a long episode, so thanks everyone for hanging in there.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. We definitely got into some really cool rabbit holes I was excited about, and also a different area of the industry than we've kind of covered in some of our recent episodes. So I'm excited also just to kind of share some of that information with people that maybe don't have a ton of window into everything we talked about today. So thank you for going there and diving in pretty deep. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Anytime.